Good morning, everyone. If we could have as many folks please take their seats as we're beginning to start our public meeting for today, we appreciate that. Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture public meeting scheduled for today, Monday, April the 1st, 2024, here at the Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church off of 237 North College Avenue here in Chestertown, Maryland. We're going to begin with our call to order for our commissioners. Chair, Edwin T. Johnson.
Present.
Vice Chair, Mariah Davis. Commissioner, Khalid Asset Ahmed. Commissioner, Dion Banks.
Present.
Commissioner, Lori Bradford. Commissioner H. Russell Frisbee. Commissioner Walter Gill. Commissioner Janice Curtis Greene.
She's present.
Commissioner Philip J. Merrill.
Present.
Commissioner Jaelon Mooney.
Present.
Commissioner Brian Morrison. Present. Commissioner Barbara Pega.
Present.
Commissioner Dr. Robert Patterson. Commissioner Ada Pinkston.
Present.
Commissioner Hakeem Tajani. Commissioner Reggie Turner. Commissioner Elinor Thompson.
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy Wilson.
Present.
And Commissioner Wellesley Wood. To our Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and public at large, today's meeting was posted on the Banneker-Douglass Museum website, the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture website, as well as our local and national syndicates, not only about our open meeting we're having today, but our closed session meeting that we will have later on this afternoon. And at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over into the wonderful and capable hands of our Chair, Edwin T. Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Before we begin with today's public meeting, I'd like to first pause for a moment of silence and acknowledge the sanctity of life. Those souls that were lost on the Key Bridge accident, and of course the conflict in Ukraine, the Gaza Strip, and elsewhere in the world where lives are lost. Can we please just pause for a moment of silence? Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February public meeting. Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
I need a second.
I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and seconded. We will accept the minutes from the February public meeting. Before we get started, I'm going to take 2 points of personal privilege. We're in church today. We don't have additional chairs for the folks standing in the back?
Fine.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to take 2 points of personal privilege. We're excited to be here today in this church. And since we're in church, I'm going to testify. So 14 years ago, tomorrow, I became, by the grace of God, cancer-free. So I'm celebrating my 14-year anniversary on tomorrow, and I'm excited to share that testimony with you all. And I would just add to that, of course, this is the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, so we're concerned with African American life and culture, and it's important to acknowledge that cancer, hypertension, high blood pressure, all of these silent killers are overly present and overly active and disproportionately affect Black communities. So everyone under the sound of my voice, I would encourage you, if you haven't done so, please get screened. Encourage family, friends, and loved ones to get screened as well. Can I say amen? Amen. All right. All right, my second point of personal privilege, I'm going to acknowledge, I understand that Morgan State University is in the house. So there are several commissioners who are Morganites as well. I, of course, am a 3-time Morganite. The commission was actually established in 1969 by Verta Freeman Welcome, who was a Morgan graduate of the class of 1939, and the legendary Benjamin Arthur Quarles, who was the chair of the Department of History. And even though he has gone from us, he remains the authority academically on the life of Frederick Douglass. So we are indeed honored to have Morgan State University in the house. Y'all can clap behind that. All right, so next I would like to pass the floor over to Commissioner Moaney, who is hosting this wonderful meeting today, and you all, from Commissioner Thompson to the Baltimore City Commissioners, you all are just setting the bar higher and higher. I think this is the first meeting I've been to where there's been standing room only. So Commissioner Moaney, thank you for this, and please say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Chestertown. And to kick us off with opening and welcoming remarks, I'd like to invite my beloved cousin and our pastor here at Bethel AME, Reverend Robert Brown Jr.
Good morning. And welcome to the historic Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, located here in Chestertown, Maryland. I, as well as members of the Bethel family, are grateful that you selected Bethel as the venue for this public meeting. A special thanks to my cousin, if you will, Commissioner Jaelon T. Bethel has been in this location since 1910 because the former location was destroyed by fire in the latter 1890s. But it took unity and a determined spirit of progressiveness for them to rebuild, to keep it moving from the corner of Kent and Calvert to where we are today at 237 North College Avenue. I believe that same unity and determined spirit of progressiveness worked through the Reverend Frederick Jones Sr., who pastored this church from 1953 to 1969. He, along with the NAACP and other local Black community leaders, invited the Freedom Riders and marched for racial equality. Under his leadership, schools and workplaces were integrated. Affordable housing and property ownership for Blacks increased. Reverend Frederick Jones Sr. was my grandfather. Reverend Frederick W. Jones Jr. pastored Bethel from 1984 to 2008, longer than anyone who has pastored to this date. He pastored Bethel for 24 years. Under his pastorship, One Church, One Addict, Narcotics Anonymous, Minority Outreach Technical Assistance, and a great renovation of this church, which took place in 2002. Frederick W. Jones Jr. was my uncle. I stand before you today and sit among you today as a third generation pastor of this church. I'm excited about your theme, Black Trailblazers in the Natural World, and believe that you have unity and a determined spirit of progressiveness. We believe here at Bethel that we are not just a church in the community, but God's church for the community. You are welcome, and know that this is your home while you are here. May you have a blessed meeting. God bless you.
Y'all can hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Each time I pass the threshold of this historic house of worship, I enter as a willing vessel and as their humble servant. I'm so blessed to have my eyes open this morning for breath to fill my lungs and for my travels here to be covered. Can I get a witness? Amen. I'd be remiss if I did not ask you to join me in thanking our hosts and my elders in this room for committing their lives to sustaining anchor communities like Butlertown, Big Woods, Fairleigh, Georgetown, Coleman, Militota, Santiago, and where we're sitting right here in Uptown. Please turn to your neighbor and say, I am.
I am.
Now look to the other side and say, because we are.
Because we are.
This African proverb captures the gravity of why we're gathered here in this unapologetically Black space of healing and liberation. Maryland was once home to the largest population of free people in the Union, with Kent harboring a substantial proportion and among some of its wealthiest. Chestertown, a former royal port of entry with sobering connections to the Middle Passage, is of increasing significance with Maryland's 400th approaching, as well as America's 250th on the horizon. However, in our time together, I ask that you join us in reclaiming an understanding of the Delmarva Peninsula as a winding collection of locations and sites that sing the bold rhythms of the African diaspora. Route 213 is an American byway, and I hope that you peered out the window to take in the beautiful environment we're fortunate to call home across all 9 counties on the Eastern Shore. Not only do we live nearby water, but we live in harmony with it, particularly its ebb and flow. Each Chesapeake tributary serves as an artery. For centuries, the Chester River has been a vector for revolutionary change. Our theme today of Black Trailblazers in the Natural World will explore how we may draw inspiration from the Tidewater's unique landscape of agency in addressing the most pressing environmental concerns facing humanity, that center narratives of healing, and create equitable innovations that honor the ancestors. I trust that you too will engage and find your stride today. Recently, I've become an educator at Washington College, which was the first college to be chartered in the sovereign United States in 1782. Walking in, you may have noticed some of the restorative community curation work my colleagues and I lead at the Starr Center for the Study of the American Experience. And with National Teacher Appreciation Day around the corner and in the spirit of celebrating Black women every day, I feel called to give those who came before me their flowers. Next month will mark 152 years since local Freedmen's Bureau educator Josephine Carr planted her feet on solid ground aboard a steamboat en route from Baltimore to Crumpton. While she would disembark early at the foot of High Street, after being assaulted by the captain aboard, she successfully sued for damages and bent the legal arc towards integration in Maryland forever. Nearly 90 years later, Rosa Parks Montgomery Ford runner Claudette Colvin similarly refused to give up her bus seat, reflecting that Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman each had a hand on my shoulders, pushing me down. History had me glued to the seat. Much like today's guest speakers, these Black women give us reassurance that taking up space is also a revolutionary act. The same could be said of Emma L. Grayson Miller, whose untiring advocacy led to the establishment of the adjoining elementary school on this lot, bearing Kent County abolitionist Henry Highland Garnett's name. What began as a wooden learning environment that advanced unprecedented curriculum for Black youth in Kent evolved into a brick high school helmed by American Teachers Association President Elmer T. Hawkins. If there are any Garnett High alumni here today, please wave and be recognized. Hawkins and local Black educators as near as Calvert Street, where we are now, joined forces with then NAACP Assistant Special Counsel Thurgood Marshall in reimagining economic power through equal pay. Despite being the last system in Maryland to integrate, the effort in Kent was pivotal in passing an in-state salary equalization law during Jim Crow. It was here that freedom riders in this Chesapeake Heartland footage of Chestertown's 1962 protest found solace, and I can't help but have the lyrics of "We Shall Come Wash Over Me." You may notice a frame from the Banneker-Douglass Museum's recent Revisit Reimagine exhibit. This anthemed refrain first echoed in the founding meeting of SNCC at Shaw University in Raleigh, and then released nationwide in the Congress of Racial Equality's Sit-In Songs album, was adapted from Charles Albert Tindley, which formed the foundation of gospel music. It is hard to fathom that this joyful noise, composed by a Worcester County-born man, found its way back to the shore and fueled the movement, particularly during Maryland's Year of Civil Rights. If you remember the image from today's flyer, we're also not far from an unforgettable Chitlin circuit in Green Book style. Charlie Graves' Uptown Club witnessed performances from the likes of James Brown, Patti LaBelle, and Ray Charles. These live moments of rejoice were carried in register and by chord through the Eastern Shore's first mass choir, the Bethelites, whose frequent radio features standing room only concerts and albums like those on the tables behind you brought soul-stirring experiences to both sides of the bay. As we begin the public meeting, I'd like for you to reconsider your experience crossing the Chester River Bridge earlier and be mindful when exiting this afternoon. The melody of its lull is a childhood fixture I often wade through with my eyes closed, envisioning Isaac Mason and Harriet Shepard northbound toward freedom. It is through these rhythms that we can reconnect bonds broken by all forms of bondage if we listen and look close enough. May you be moved by your time here and leave different than you came. Thank you.
Let's give Commissioner Moaney another round of applause, and also Pastor Brown for that warm welcome and for that historical context to place us in the right frame of mind for the work that will take place on today. I have a greater appreciation now that I know how far you travel. As I go into my chair's report, We had several programs at the museum during the month of February as well as March, and Commissioner Moaney brought his entire family. Is some of your family still here? I think I saw your wife. Commissioner Moaney's family, would you please stand? You all came a long way to Baltimore. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We appreciate your support. We absolutely love it when commissioners can clear time on their schedule to support the events taking place at the Banneker-Douglass, soon to be Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum, but it's really awesome when you bring out 2 and 3 generations of the same family, so I really appreciate that. Harriet Tubman, the woman behind the legacy. We had the donor reception and an exhibit opening that took place. And Sabria, is she here today? Okay. In her absence, would all of the museum staff that are here today please just raise your hand? We had some amazing programs that were held in both February and March, and I just want to publicly thank you. Packed house, meaningful speakers. It was just a very edifying time, and I appreciate all of your hard work and effort under the leadership of our executive director. We had 3 pieces of legislation that we were hoping would push through. Thankfully, the name change bill has passed unanimously in both houses, and we are just awaiting the governor's signature. Y'all can clap there. So for those of you who didn't know, it's been almost 2.5 years we've been trying to change the name of the Banneker-Douglass Museum to include the name of Harriet Tubman. So it will become either the end of this month or the beginning of May. It will officially become the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. Y'all just not excited. Maybe it's the rain. I don't know. So as we aim to knock out racism, we also have our eyes fixed on sexism. So we're doing both. The African American Heritage Preservation Grant programming bill did not go through, and we are waiting to hear about the capital grant repair legislation. So that is a quick update on the legislation and programs. And I would like to repurpose the remainder of my time to quickly go through the bylaws. So commissioners, you should have a handout on the bylaws of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. And if you remember, this was a process that we tried to start in October. The date of the symposium changed, and there were a couple of other hiccups. But it is imperative that we get this approved next public meeting, which will be the June meeting. So I'm going to quickly go through some of the changes, and you have 60 days between now and the June public meeting to mull this over. If you have concerns, if you have additions, you can email myself, the executive director, or Mr. Herbert before the close of this month. And remember, and Commissioner Greene, you check me if I'm wrong because I'm still kind of shaky on this, but the Open Meetings Act would direct us to have each commissioner to have at least 30 days to consider changes that are being made. So really quickly, if you look on the first page, the reception changes when I slide. Okay. Right here. All right. So on the first page, the biggest change is that we're losing the language that speaks to GOSI, which is the Governor's Office on Community Initiatives. Page number 2, in red, almost at the bottom of the page, we're adding the African American Heritage Grant. And then we're going to skip all the way over to page 6. And I would implore and encourage
all of you who actually serve or chair or co-chair these committees to make sure that the adjustments and changes are aligned with the purpose of this committee. The executive director, myself, and Mr. Herbert have gone through this a number of times, but we are not perfect. So there could have been some oversight, and again, to please let us know so that we have at least 30 days time, 30 days, excuse me, to review this before it's actually discussed and we have a vote to approve it in the June public meeting. I noticed this morning that under section 1, was that the right section? No, that wasn't. I'm sorry. But it details the purposes of those committees. And then if you go all the way to page 9, we are looking to make the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Program, we're going to move that, or we would like to move that from a special committee to a standing committee. And Commissioners Greene and Thompson, I would like for you all to put your heads together and determine whether we need to do the same thing with the Ancestral Remains Committee. You all are doing a really outstanding job, and it looks like there's going to be a bright future for that committee. So if we need to make that adjustment as well, let's be sure that we do so. Did I miss something? Oh, I was right. Okay. I'm sorry, bear with me. Go back to page 6. Under section 1, executive committee being changed from the advisory committee, there should be an additional bullet, and this was lost from the translation from October, and the bullet should simply indicate, and do I need official language, Commissioner Greene?
You just need to have the language in here. Actually, the bullet before that needs to be corrected because they should all have, this is more English grammar than, or writing than anything else. If everything else is to serve, to set, to coordinate, then it should be spelled
To develop, the verb should be first?
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, and then the final bullet is that the executive committee advises the subcommittees that follow. So that language will be adjusted, an update will be made, and again, you have until the end of this month to get any other considerations that you want to us via email, myself, Executive Director, or Special Assistant Mr. Herbert, and then the entire document will then be disseminated to commissioners. So you have 30 days to review it. So we'll be ready for discussion and a vote on the June public meeting.
Could you repeat that language so that everybody has it?
Well, remember, it's going to go out again.
Okay.
But the language is basically that the executive committee will advise the subcommittees that follow. Yes, ma'am.
So, Chair Johnson, when we submit comments, if any, at what point do we see the totality of all of those?
You'll have to have it 30 days before the June meeting. So again, if you all, as soon as you can get whatever concerns you have to us, we'll get the document updated and then it will be disseminated. Any other concerns? Yes, ma'am.
Just that the commissioners remember that, so if they send in a late comment and it's not included, that 30 days, please adhere to that, because there's no room for complaints or issues after that 30 days has expired. Okay? Because then it has to be reframed before the June meeting so we can take that vote.
So noted. Any other comments, concerns? All right. So now we will move to the Vice Chair's report. Vice Chair Mariah Davis.
Thank you, and my apologies to everyone for my tardiness, but I'm so happy to see a room full of people for this meeting. It is so great to have people out here in recognition of African American history and culture. In my report, I just wanted to share with the commissioners that a doodle poll will be going out in a couple of weeks just to pick a day. We're going to look at doing our commission retreat in late August or early September. So just please consider marking that time on your calendars now and thinking about that. We'll discuss the bylaws and then we'll also be looking at the annual financial disclosure that's required by each of our commissioners. And then the committee sign-ups for meetings. We will have that in our June meeting coming up where commissioners will be able to sign up for hosting our public meetings. I know we have a couple of dates on the books already, so I know Commissioner Greene, you actually shared a date that you will be hosting, but we have several other dates and we got to do this across the state. So even if it's not directly in your county, if it's an adjacent county, we welcome that as well. So we'll be discussing that. In June, we will also be looking at our election, so make sure that you consider that. As you know, our chair, Edwin Johnson, June will be his last and final meeting, and so we will need to have elections for both the chair and vice chair position here at the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. In addition, for the commission retreat, we will go over Robert's Rules of Order for our meetings and the Open Meetings Act, which will be led then by our Commissioner Janice Greene. And that, I believe, ends my report for.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We'll now have the Executive Director's report from the dynamic Chanel Compton Johnson.
Clap it up, clap it up. How's everybody doing?
Great.
All right. Everyone doing good? Yes. Love to see it, love to see it. So,
Director, can you stand to the side?
oh, yes. How am I gonna do this?
Just slide through.
Is this better? This way? Yeah. Okay. All right. Commissioner Morrison. All right. All right. Well, my name is Chanel Compton Johnson, and I'm going to be doing the easiest job in the world, which is to amplify the great work of the staff of the Banneker-Douglass Museum and the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Departments for the month of February and March. So let's get the party started. I first want to thank Commissioner Moaney for hosting a dynamic public meeting. And for having it here at this wonderful historic church. So February and March was incredible for the Banneker-Douglass Museum. We celebrated Black History Month, but we also celebrated in March Women's History Month. I know that's right. And we also, in 2024, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Banneker-Douglass, soon to be Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. So we are middle-aged. We all grown up. And we are also celebrating Maryland's Year of Civil Rights, the 60th anniversary, which is the 60th anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And this year is also the 160th anniversary of Maryland emancipation. So we had some really dynamic programs for young people and adult learners that we'll explore today. So I always put this out at every public meeting, just as a reminder and to frame the presentation, some of the priorities that were set forth for FY 2025 for the Commission and Banneker-Douglass Museum activities, which is number 1, improve commissioner engagement, 2, improve the BDM staff work-life culture. 3, improve audience engagement. 4, improve fundraising activities. 5, to spearhead our strategic plan. 6, the BDM name change. 7, museum capital repairs. And 8, grow the AHP grant program. I would say all but one of these priorities are really being activated. We did put in a deficiency request to the Department of Budget and Management to hire a consultant for our strategic plan, but we didn't get that funding. So I will be looking to the commission as a sounding board on how we're going to move forward with our strategic plan, which we really need to start. So I am elated to say that we have new staff at the Banneker-Douglass Museum. As many of you know, we did get a funding increase in FY 2023 to onboard new staff, additional staff, because the museum has been chronically understaffed for decades. So we went from a staff of 4 people all the way to a staff of 10 people to serve the great state of Maryland. So we have, and I'm going to call some of the folks up here when I name everyone. We have Martina Dodd, our Curator of Collections and Exhibitions, Abiola Akintola, our Education Coordinator, and Taja Cropper, our Marketing Coordinator. Y'all, come on up. They want to see you. So I'm just going to ask if you could just say maybe spend a minute just talking about yourself and your role at the museum.
I'll just take the podium. Hello, my name is Martina Dodd. I am the Curator of Collections and Exhibitions at the Banneker-Douglass Museum. Within my role, I serve to steward over the collection, both the art collection as well as the archival and library collections, making sure that we have engagement with the public through exhibits, programming, thinking about ways that we can collaborate with our community and educate and inspire people with our collections.
And where do we steal you from?
I'm originally from Anne Arundel County, but I've been in Atlanta for the last 6 years at Atlanta University Center in their Woodruff Library. So I'm glad to be back in Maryland and able to bring over the skills I've learned from Atlanta back to Maryland.
Hello everyone, Abiola Akintola. I'm the new educational coordinator. That will involve adding more to the educational dimension of the museum, public programs, be rebooting the docent program, as well as working with Martina and other members of the staff with public outreach, particularly with local youth, local Annapolis youth, and certain other communities. So.
I'm not going to try it. Hi everybody, it's wonderful to be here on such a rainy day. Everybody's smiling and happy, so that's wonderful. I am Taja Cropper. I'm excited to be a part of the Banneker-Douglass Museum staff as the marketing coordinator. I am involved in better communicating on our social channels to connect with everybody and let you know what's happening at the museum, as well as supporting the communications director, Ms. Janice, who's been doing a wonderful job, and it's been wonderful thus far, and I only expect great things. I am an Eastern Shore native, originally with roots in Accomack County, Virginia, and then I graduated in Somerset County, Maryland. I am an alum of University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Traded one cornfield for another, and now they always say, we took it from across the bridge. So that's where I am if you're looking for me. So thank you, nice to meet you all.
Thank you, team. I will say it's exciting that we have some really great directors. Sabria Hassan, our programs director, has a staffer in her department, Abiola, to help expand our youth outreach engagement. Our director of communications, Jan Lee, has Ms. Taja Cropper to expand our visibility and outreach to the state of Maryland. And we finally have a curator of collections, the dynamic Miss Martina Dodd, who's really hit the ground running. She will be hiring soon an exhibits manager. So please stay tuned to that. I think the applications are still open, so if you know anyone who wants some really great mentorship and has a talent and experience in exhibition design and curation, please let Martina know. So next, all right, Maryland's Year of Civil Rights. We are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We all know who this fantastic woman is, Gloria Richardson. Commissioner Banks is like, I better shout her out. And so if you're an organization, if you are just a resident of Maryland and you're interested in examining and learning more about Maryland's contribution to civil rights activism in this nation, you can do so by going to our website. We have a media toolkit where you can get logos to include in your promotional materials. We have really great press kits and information on our partners through this initiative. So we ask you to join us in amplifying this dynamic history. Governor Moore, the first African-American governor in the state of Maryland, I believe the third in the nation, which is wild, he partnered with our commission to announce Maryland's Year of Civil Rights in 2024. So we ask that you join us on this major milestone year. I will start with department updates with the new and improved, suited and booted African American Heritage Preservation Program grants. This department is spearheaded by our very own Taylor Means. Please stand up. She is our grant specialist. And Taylor, you have some family here today, right? Okay, where's your mama? Hey, your grandmama, your family. You ladies did a bang-up job with this young lady. She came by way of Nashville, Tennessee, and she has taken this grant program to new heights, serving hundreds of grant applicants and awardees this year alone. So thank you, Taylor. I was gonna say that even if your family wasn't here. So some highlights. I will say Tamika Miller, who's also your partner in crime, she is our financial specialist within this department. She has reported that we have received all 24, FY24 awardee grant agreements. So we are rolling, all right. We had 108 applicants this year, which is fantastic. Taylor and her team has conducted 13 site visits to assist with past awarded projects, making sure that they close with success. She's also worked closely with her students at Morgan State University to study African American heritage preservation. Your students are here today, right? And Barbara Peka. Shout out to Barbara Peka. Commissioner Peka, raise your hand. All right. Raise your hand if you represent Morgan State University. Amazing. We need all of you all as ambassadors to preserve, to promote, and to share Black history and culture the way you see it. We need your innovative ideas, and it's amazing that you have the mentorship of Taylor and this commission to help you with your goals. So thank you for being here. Upcoming in FY 2025, our next round for the $5 million annual appropriation for capital grants for African American heritage sites. If you want to learn more on how to make a competitive application, right, you need to attend this workshop, which will be on April 23rd. You can RSVP to those workshops on africanamerican.maryland.gov. And there's a series of orientation workshops that you can participate in. Jan Lee, our Director of Marketing and Communications. She has done a really great job making our programs engaging for in-person participation, but also we do really great online programs as well in social media campaigns. This year, we have reached 50,870 people through our social media channels and through our in-person engagement and through our after-school programming that we host at Robinwood Community Center and in-class presentations that we do weekly at Annapolis High School. Some media coverage. Yeah, I'm shouting out Jan. All right. Media coverage. We, in the months of February and March, we were included in 10 media outlets. A lot of the coverage that we received was on our new exhibit, Revisit, Reimagine, which you can view at the Banneker-Douglass Museum, as well as news about our name change to the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. I gotta shout out Mr. LeRonn Herbert, our administrative manager and special assistant to the commission. Mr. Herbert not only manages the administrative affairs for the museum, but he is also our facilities manager. Mr. Herbert, I'm gonna start from the last one, which I think is really great. He manages our site rentals. So if you're interested in hosting an event at the museum, our rate is pretty good, pretty good. And Mr. Herbert treats all of our clients like they are royalty, which you are. So you'll see during the legislative session, we were really active hosting legislative events with Senator Corey McCray. We hosted events with Leadership Anne Arundel, and our revenue thus far this year has been $9,000 from our space rental. So excellent work, Mr. Herbert. We also have had maintenance work done at the Banneker-Douglass Museum, which includes installing new and improved state-of-the-art security cameras. We are currently installing our Wi-Fi system to our historic building, which we're really excited about, as well as new track lighting to our historic wing and temporary galleries. We also received put in a bond bill request of $1.4 million by the recommendation of the Department of General Services to complete our capital repair project at the museum. Exhibitions and collections. Now I told you, Martina hit the ground running, okay? She only started in late February, and already she is conducting an analysis of the BDM Collections Department and our exhibit practices and policies. Out on loan is, from our collection, is Mall Art by the amazing Dr. Joy, amazing MacArthur Genius Fellow, Baltimore raised Dr. Joyce J. Scott. She has a retrospect of her 50 years in the arts at the Baltimore Museum of Art. This piece that we loaned from our collection is massive. It's actually one of the larger pieces in the exhibition, so please make sure you go see that incredible exhibit. Currently, we are raising funds, and this is aligned with our name change, to purchase a statue that Joyce Scott created of Harriet Tubman. We have some seed money from a grant program, so we'll be working with our galleries to raise their remaining funds. So Harriet Tubman will be in perpetuity in front of our museum. All right, and new partnerships. And this is where Martina really does shine as a curator and community partner. We have a partnership with St. John's, one of the oldest colleges in the nation, to research their archives, to center the Black presence and the founding of the school and its history. She has also joined the Annapolis 250 Commission to center Black history during our sesquicentennial in 2026. She's also joined the historic Annapolis Bryce House Committee, which is in Annapolis, to center the presence of African Americans in the Bryce House. And she's also joined the Association of African American Museums initiative to create a Maryland Civil Rights exhibit to premiere at their Baltimore conference. So she's been a little busy. Yeah. If you have not seen it, please do. And we're going to play Where's Waldo? Does anyone know who this gentleman is?
Oh, yeah.
He's over there. Okay. All right. So this is the incredible Eastern Shore artist Jason Patterson. He created this piece for our exhibition, Revisit, Reimagine, the Civil Rights Era in Maryland and Parallels to Today. You can recognize this dynamic Shiro Gloria Richardson. If you would like to see his work and other works in this exhibit, we are located in downtown Annapolis. So the exhibit will be up for an entire year until January 4th, 2025. We also have a great archive, we're also presenting a great civil rights archive from the Afro newspaper aligned with the artwork in the exhibit. It's incredible. Thank you for being here, Jason. All right, so some upcoming projects to stay tuned within the Collections and Exhibitions Department. Like I said, AAAM, the Association of African American Museums. If you are not a member, you need to join as a member if you represent an African American heritage site. Because it literally is, their conferences is like the Black Mecca of African American heritage preservation. That will be in Baltimore, and we're creating a civil rights exhibition around that. We've also applied for funding to support a Sacred Spaces exhibition opening in 2025, exploring Black spirituality in the Black church. We also applied for funding to support Senator Verda Freeman Welcome, who was one of our museum's founder and the first African American woman senator in the state of Maryland. She survived an assassination attempt to silence her work in the civil rights movement. So we have an opportunity to receive and digitize her archive from her descendants. Programs, so we have our Director of Programs, none other than Ms. Sabria Hassan Asmail. Her and Abiola are leading some really great programs. Sabria, if you haven't been to a Sabria party or event, I don't know where you are. I mean, they're just incredible. In the months of February and March, we hosted 7 youth and public programs, some of which our illustrious chair had mentioned: the Black Power Freedom Party reception, the BDM 40th anniversary donor reception, where we raise funds to support our exhibitions and programs, and the Revisit Reimagine opening reception. If you'd like to see photos, video footage of our lectures and programming, you can go to our YouTube page as well. BDM school programs by way of the museum programs department. We have 2 outstanding all year long youth programs with Annapolis High School and with Robinwood Community Center in Annapolis. But we operate as a museum without walls, so our youth programs can be all throughout the state of Maryland. So I want to make mention of that. We took 100 and, I wasn't there, but I heard it was, it was a day. We took 100 young people from Annapolis High School to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture and the MLK Memorial. It was a transformative day. We also took our Robinwood after school program to see the movie One Love, the autobiographical story of Bob Marley, and they also participated in a Harriet Tubman themed exhibit at the Banneker-Douglass Museum. Their work is still being presented, so make sure you come see that. Upcoming, on April 6th, that's this weekend. Oh my goodness, yeah. This Saturday, we have a poetry workshop in recognition of National Poetry Month, an album listening party. It is it's pretty much an arts and literacy festival all day. We have a youth component from 10 to 11, a reading of from Carol Boston Weatherford NAACP Image Award, so bring your families to that. She'll be reading her book on Matthew Henson, which is Matthew Henson Day, so very fitting. And then later on, we have a poetry workshop and album listening party of the work of Gil Scott-Heron. Now you know who he is, right? The revolutionary Sanabi what? That's right. All right. So thank you so much to all of you. I would say supporters like you make our work possible. If you would like to donate to the Banneker-Douglass Museum at any level to support our programs and our exhibitions, please do so. Many people think because we're a state agency that we don't got to worry about money. That's not true. Our funding pretty much covers salaries and keeping the building opening, but the majority, I would say almost 100% of our programming and our exhibits are from grants and private donations. So at any level you care to donate a tax-deductible gift, you can go to our museum website to do so. Thank you.
Ms. Hassan, you weren't present when I gave you a shout out and wanted your... Where is she? Oh, there she is. We gave you a shout out and a round of applause for all of your work. But can all of the museum staff, including our executive director, please stand and let's give them a round of applause. They've really been doing Herculean work. And as someone mentioned earlier, this is my second to last meeting. So next meeting, I'm going to be checking commissioner's homework. If you all remember, at our August public meeting, everyone was supposed to bring someone to the museum or a museum program. So I'm going to be checking on that. Mr. Herbert, my mom came last month with her retirement community, and she said that you did a wonderful job and that Jan Lee is a sweetheart. So you pay my mom later, Jan, for giving you that compliment. So next we will have the Finance Committee report from Commissioner Reggie Turner.
Speak about it.
Yeah, what did you say if you like? I was coming.
Well, it's still 11:56, so good morning.
Morning.
There we go. For fiscal year 24, we were appropriated $1.6 million, and as of the close of the quarter, we still have $667,925 remaining, roughly about 42% of the fiscal year 24 appropriations. We are still currently recruiting for our exhibitions manager that will take up a portion of that budget. In regards to our capital budget, for fiscal year 23, we were appropriated a capital grant through the Department of General Services of $75,000. There is about $20,500 that is remaining from that fund. And for fiscal year 24, through the Department of General Services, we were allocated $3 million for capital budget improvements. That concludes my report, other than after the meeting, I will be approaching commissioners to join my committee, so I am not standalone. So be forewarned.
Can I just ask a follow-up question?
Yes, please.
So with respect to the $667,000, first of all, when does the fiscal year end?
June is the end of our fiscal year.
Okay, so were we expecting to still have around $600,000 left, or were we on track with our spending? Is that ahead or behind?
Well, since we were not fully staffed for the full fiscal year, we have more in the budget than we would have expected if we would have been fully staffed.
Great.
So.
And last question, so
Yes.
any underspent funds, they will roll over into the new fiscal year, or is that going to affect our appropriation?
Chair Johnson, I believe those funds will roll over. Is that correct in regards to any appropriations from fiscal 24?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, no, not the salaries.
Not the salaries. So any salaries that we didn't spend, that will go back to the general fund.
Okay.
Anything else left, we'll make it work. We'll make it roll over.
But a lot of the funding, again, was because of the way in which we staggered onboarding staff. So a lot of that funding is because of that. But next year, it's going to be way different because we'll have a full staff at that point.
Started.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Excellent, thank you.
You can stop here, 'cause I have Frisbee's report. Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I have Commissioner Frisbee's report on my phone.
Is Commissioner Jaelon, are you prepared to give the report? No? Okay.
You want me to take care of that? 'Cause
Yes,
that's next on the agenda. Okay.
I am not Commissioner Frisbee. All right, our dear illustrious Commissioner Russell Frisbee, he is the chair of the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Committee. Can I just step out of line for this? With all of the commissioners who served on that committee, who ran all over the state and talked to people and tried to rank all of these people, would you please stand? Because that was a handful, that was a lot. Because there were like 100 of these things that we wrote. Okay, here's Commissioner Frisbee's report, and the pen is small. The commission has long had the, thank you. No, I've tried it. It's less on the screen, so all that scrolling it's easier for me to try it. The commission has long had an emergency grant fund comprised of the unspent grant money. Unfortunately, with only $14,000 in the emergency fund and a rather restrictive policy drafted by or in conjunction with Maryland Historical Trust, there is very little that could be done to meet legitimate emergency needs. As a result, the existence of the emergency fund has not been publicized. Two of the commission's goals for this year were to, 1, review the status of the fund with the hope of expanding it, and 2, begin to reclaim unspent grant dollars and determine what should be done with them. As you recall earlier, we mentioned that Taylor and her staff has been all over the state to make sure that grants that have been given are, the money is up to standard. Due to the good work of the commission staff with the cooperation of the Maryland Historical Trust, $100,000 in unspent funds was recovered from a grant to an organization that dissolved. There ultimately may be more unspent dollars that will come to light as the investigation continues. Under current policy, the unspent dollars would be allocated to the next 2 ranked applicants. However, this would have only limited impact. After prolonged discussion, the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Committee decided to recommend to the commissioners that $86,000 of the unspent dollars be allocated to the emergency fund in order to bring it up to $100,000. The committee felt that with the overall expansion of the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Fund, it would be more appropriate to expand the emergency fund to $100,000 so as to meet what are expected to be greater needs. The remaining fund will be allocated to the Turner Station, the next ranked application, in order to permit it to begin the planning and development for the planned statute, and that's Henrietta Lacks. Upon commission approval of this course of action, the appropriate resolution will be submitted to the Maryland Historical Trust for its May 15th meeting. Additionally, the committee will continue to review the emergency grant fund policy. So, additional commissioner participation. Additional commissioners are needed. That's why I had the few that did to stand, because additional commissioners are needed to review what is expected to be major growth in the influx of grant applications. The committee wishes to alert the commissioners to this now and hopes to have a proposal back to the commission by late April or early May. Additional commissioners will be expected to work on this committee. All right, that's just an aside from one of the people who drove all over the place. So, Commissioner Frisbee asked for these motions to be met. He has two motions to propose to the commission for voting today. The motion to allocate the $86,000 of the unspent funds to the emergency grant fund, and the second motion would be to award the $14,000 of unspent funds to the Turner Station, I think the Henrietta Lacks statue application.
So I entertain the first motion. Can you repeat it again for clarity?
Okay. Motion to allocate the $86,000 of the unspent fund to the emergency grant fund.
Is there a second?
A second.
A second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any unreadiness? Any unreadiness? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You have the same right? All right. It's been properly moved and seconded that the $86,000 will be placed in the emergency fund. I'll entertain the second motion.
The second motion is that an award of $14,000 of the unspent funds be allocated to the Turner Station application.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, you have the same right? It's been properly moved and seconded that the $14,000 will be disseminated to, give me the name again?
It just says the Turner Station application.
And that is a statue of
Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta Lacks.
I believe, the exact name, Taylor would know specifically. Commissioner Frisbee says the Turner Station application.
Thank you, Commissioner Frisbee, by way of Commissioner Greene, and we'll just stay with you, Commissioner Greene, and Commissioner Thompson for the Ancestral Remains report.
Is that why you sat us next to each other so we could, right? And Ms. Ada Pinkston is on that committee, as well as Barbara Pega. And even though he isn't one of the beautiful four, he is the handsome fifth, Mr. Commissioner Philip Merrill, and then we have Commissioner Lori Gray. Philip Merrill, I couldn't see you, have to see your face. There's a lot of commissioners, commissioner this, commissioner that. I just want to call you Philip, but that's not proper. I said, and Commissioner Lori Bradford out of Anne Arundel County. Okay, do you want to start us off? Here it is.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out to this wonderful meeting hosted by our Commissioner Moaney. I'd just like to speak to you a little bit about the Ancestral Remains Committee, but before we get started, I have to send a special shout out to the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory, because if it wasn't for that MAC lab, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. So just raise your hand from the MAC lab. I think they're standing.
They're already standing.
They're already standing. Just raise your hand. Thank you. I couldn't come and tell you. There was someone right. But I just want to acknowledge that the Ancestral Remains Committee is continuing the work of the Maryland Historical Trust in identifying the ancestral remains that were held at the MAC lab down in Calvert County, Maryland. These special collections, we found the collections from 5 different counties, which includes Anne Arundel County, Calvert County, Charles County, Chapel Point, which is in Charles County, Queen Anne's County, and Twin Oaks in Wicomico County, here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. And those remains that were found were of African descent. So the lab has had them for many years, since 1970, and we now have partnership with the Mac Lab and Maryland Historical Trust to identify these remains that they've held in their Mac Lab for many, many years. What we're going to do, we are going to collect DNA analysis from those collections, which are bones, and try to connect them to the living ancestors. But first, we have to have permission from the known and unknown descendants. So what we have done is created a letter so that we can acknowledge some of these people who may be connected to the Maryland through the collections, so we can identify and give them a proper burial. We filed a grant through ILMS as well to try to get some of the work done that we need to get done. We've also had, we collected a committee to serve on this Ancestral Remains Committee. So these people are experienced archaeologists, genealogists, people from all walks of life. We just want to make sure that these collections that have been housed at the Maryland Archaeological Lab get a proper home. We're welcoming the public as well. So we created something that's called Building Trust and Engaging with descendant communities in all of the 5 regions where we found the collections. However, we need your help. We need your permission as well. We'll be documenting the history of the people's lives, building trust in the community. So we're going to ask people from each community, from each region, to help us give these people a name and give these people a proper burial.
In doing so, we've set up, the first meeting will be held on Saturday, April the 27th, 2024, from 11 until 3, and that will be held at the Kennard African American Cultural Heritage Center, 410 Little Kitwell Avenue in Centerville, Maryland. The host for that meeting will be the committee, the Ancestral Remains Committee. I know Commissioner Thompson and myself will be there, and the other members of the committee who can. And this is to first start to, as Commissioner Thompson alluded to gain the trust. People are not going to give you their family histories and turn over their Bibles and show you the records that their ancestors have held dear for so many years if you cannot build the trust that you're not going to do something untoward. I wait for a chance to use that word. With their sacred memories. So, pay me no mind. So we want to read to you the letter that was sent. It's a letter from the ancestors. Ellie?
Thank you. This is a special message from the Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee. And it says, to all my known and, the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee is working on a meaningful project partnership with the Maryland Historical Trust and the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Lab in Southern Maryland to engage descendant African American communities. Through this project, we aim to reburial ancestral human remains of African descent found in various parts of Maryland.
A special message from the Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee. To all my known and unknown beloved descendants, you may not have been able to hear my spoken words, but my lineal presence speaks volumes. You have heard my cries that went silent for many decades, perhaps centuries.
Now that my presence has become loud and clear enough to tell you just how I feel toward you, I want you to know that I have always loved you and yearned to hear your voice. My strength lives within you, for I am your ancestor who endured more than you could ever imagine.
Heartfelt gratitude to all of you who are involved with the preservation of my remains that have been kept as part of a collection that formerly sat on the shelf identified by a number. I am now recognized as your ancestor, and you are my descendants. I am proud of you. I would like to applaud you for your strength and determination to acknowledge me as part of your family until we meet again.
To participate in this project, please complete the requested information below. Please indicate the location from which your ancestor may have come, or indicate the location of your descendant community. So the selection right now is Deep Creek in Anne Arundel County, the Gott Cemetery in Calvert County, Chapel Point in Charles County, Bennett's Point in Queen Anne's County, and Twin Oaks in Wicomico County. Thank you.
Thanks to the Mac Lab and their employees. First of all, the Mac Lab has kept these remains very carefully and sacredly. Even though they're identified by a number, that's all they could be identified. And our goal is to find out who they are so that they can have a sacred burial or be buried and given, their remains be given back to a family member, or at least be buried in the communities from which they came. The Mac Lab has created, we keep a Google form that goes out to people so they can look through their family's history, and if they just think that they may be related to any of the remains that have been held, then they can fill out the forms, and they will be given the invitations to the Building Trust in the Community meeting that we're having in April. So that's where we're going. That's the next step, to identify and explain what we're doing and explain the process to possible descendants of these ancestral remains. So in a nutshell, that's what this committee is all about. There's then the other part of this committee is that we are honoring colored troops, because it's all about ancestral remains and cemeteries. So we're working on a project with the Loudon Park Cemetery to recognize the colored troops, the U.S. colored troops that are buried in that cemetery. And there are quite a few from local regiments, some that mustered right in Baltimore City and the surrounding counties. That will be held on Memorial Day, May the 27th at Loudon Park Cemetery. And because of the restricted parking, there's not much parking there, we have arranged with Father Mike at St. Joseph's Monastery Church that you can park there, and I have a flyer that has the addresses of these, so I don't have to and you'll be taken back and forth. At that time, it'll be from 11 until 12, and we'll have guest speakers. Of course, there'll be politicians, there'll be some singing and some salutes, and then actually reading of some of the muster records from the 39th Cavalry that mustered in Baltimore City. At 12 noon, that happens across the nation at 12 noon on Memorial Day, taps will be blown as the flag is raised. So if you would like to attend that ceremony, please see any member of this committee. That's why we said that. Not Reggie, but we'll adopt him if he wants to be on the committee. But the four of us that are sitting here, that's 5. Okay, I don't count myself. The 5 of us sitting here, and we can give you more information about that. To close up this report, because we've taken a bunch of your time, I just wanted to report that on March the 11th, on March the 11th, Commissioner Thompson and myself were invited to speak as guest presenters at Career Day at Old Mill High School. And we represented the commission and this committee. And there were 3 8th grade classes, and it was held in the media center. Commissioner Thompson spoke about the ancestral remains and spoke about opportunities in genealogy and forensic sciences. She encouraged the students to learn and read cursive writing, because you haven't seen her collections, but her collections date back, Commissioner Thompson's collections as a genealogist date back to the 1700s, and most of these records were written in cursive. And if you cannot read cursive writing, or if you can't write, you won't be able to do anything with them. I spoke about careers on researching and being able to prepare and tell stories. I'm a professional storyteller. And so to prepare the stories of their ancestors. And as Verda welcome, I encourage the students to think about careers in education, because she was an educator, and politics, possible careers in politics. And we had a interview, representatives from the Mac Lab, the Banneker-Douglass Museum, Commissioner Thompson and myself, and one of the descendants were interviewed by WBAL, and that was shown during Black History Month on WBL. It combined Career Day, Women's History Month, and Maryland Day, which was March the 25th. We outlined several people in Maryland, certain powerful Black women in Maryland who are making a mark on this state. And one of them was Director Chanel Compton that we highlighted in that report. So I think we've taken up a great deal of time. What did you want?
The steering committee.
The steering committee. Do we need approval from the commission on the people that we're getting putting together for these steering committees, or not? Or is this just part of what we do as a committee?
For the steering committee?
Yeah, the steering committees of people who are going to be working with us across the counties.
For the ancestral.
For the Ancestral Remains Committee. No, okay. Then, that's all, folks.
Commissioner Greene, Thompson, Ancestral Remains Committee, thank you for your diligent efforts. You all are superheroes. And also thank you to the Mac Lab for your partnership and your due diligence. We'll keep the microphone on that side of the table. You can pass it down to Commissioner Morrison, who's going to report on the Reginald F. Lewis Museum Board.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And thank you, Commissioner Moaney, for this wonderful event and this lovely facility as well, Pastor. So I have a new role, sort of, as a commissioner here. I am now on the board of the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. I thought that would not happen until the fall, until the summer, but I got a letter in December saying that I would be finishing out a term beginning in January. So I started in January. And I was sworn in January, went to the first board meeting. So just a little background on that. The Reginald F. Lewis Museum, up until the time that the National Museum of African American History and Culture was built, was the largest African American history museum on the East Coast. And now it's the second. It receives a large portion of its funding from the state. So as a result, the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, which our mission is to preserve and to promote African American history and culture, we have a seat on that board to work in that position as a two kind of has a dual purpose. Because we are the state museums of the state's museum on African American history and culture, and because we are the commission that sort of oversees that process, we do two things. One, in our mission of preserving and promoting, we want to lift up all of the institutions that actually have anything to do with preserving and promoting African American history and culture, and the Reginald F. Lewis Museum does that. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that we as a museum are a part of a larger ecosystem. We also exist as a museum within the museum world and that world, and as far as promoting African American history and culture, being in that ecosystem, what we don't want to have is competition. What we want to have is support and complementary work. So a part of what my role is to do two things, is to lift all the, being on the Eastern Shore and the waterways, we want to raise the tide. And that's what this commission does. We're a force that raises the tide so that all of the ships, our museum as well as the Lewis Museum, your institutions, that all of our ships rise. So just that background piece on that, so that we sort of understand why I'm there and what I'm supposed to do. Prior to that, Commissioner Frisbee was the representative on the board, and there were in fact 2 seats. One of those, that board had 37 people on it, which was way too big. So they did some reorganization, and now it's just down to 20, I believe 25 or 27 seats. Some of them are mandated, and that's a bunch of other stuff that's unnecessary. But in any case, what has been going on since I've been on the board? I sort of hit the ground running. First, the things that are continuing to go on there, and this is a part of raising all of our ships. One of the things that we can do as commissioners is support the events that are going on at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. The Black Woman Genius exhibit is ongoing there, and it would be wonderful if we could all go and take a part in that. I serve on the education committee there, and we are planning a teacher workshop or teacher institute this summer from July 29th to August 2nd. And that workshop is on Maryland civil rights. So teachers from throughout the state will come to Baltimore. There's housing, there's a stipend that's available, and there are continuing education credits for that program. And again, in terms of complementary kinds of things, these are the kinds of things that we can also do at the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. And it's not a competition, it's complementary. So these are some of the things we can work on together. But that is happening. There is also the annual fundraiser, the gala, in supporting the mission of the Lewis Museum. I would encourage, and I've asked if we as a commission would be able to support a table, or if not as a commission, but at least as individuals, if we could all support that initiative, which is on May the 9th. The public invitation will be going out shortly, but there's, I've shared with you in our report, I emailed everyone a copy of the report with the link to being able to sign up for that. Just note my name as the table lead so that they'll be aware that we're commissioners from the commission. There's a new, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but there's a new lynching exhibit that will be a part of the permanent collection that's coming up. And they're looking to revamp, and their 25-year anniversary is coming up, and they will be redoing the permanent collections over the next 3 to 5 years, which is well overdue. There's finally some ways in which we can support our partner. Become a member, and that's for everyone. Everyone become a member. Subscribe to the weekly newsletter, see about the events that are going on. And it's in the events and programs. They have very good events, and their weekly newsletter highlights them, just as our newsletter highlights the events that we have at the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. And Terry Freeman, the new president there, she's a very dynamic woman. She's done an excellent job. And one of the things that they do, just as we do at the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum, is allow access to the facility and to use it. And she's really, the museum is really big on community and building community and using the facilities. So if you have events, your organizations want to use the museum, feel free to call and to take advantage of that opportunity. And with that, that concludes my report.
No, Chair Johnson, I just needed to one sentence. The commissioners will be getting a letter. The Harriet Tubman Lifetime Achievement Award Committee is now a committee of one because Commissioner McLeod's term in office is left. So I'll be calling on people to help with that. It was supposed to happen in March, but of course, I had a whole bunch of other things to do. So I will be sending out something to all the commissioners to nominate one person from your area, male or female, that embodies the strength, the selflessness, the driven and faith-driven purpose of like Harriet Tubman. Nominate one person and send that to, of course, the chair, vice chair, and the director, and myself, who's the committee of one. I will also be asking 2 other commissioners to help me serve on that committee. And I'm asking you, along with the remarks on the bylaws and the changes that we're making, to have that to me by the end of April. Because my hope is that we can make that award in June to coincide with Juneteenth. Since we missed March, I couldn't think of no other month that epitomizes Harriet Tubman's fight for freedom than June. So hopefully we can have that combined with whatever Juneteenth celebration you'll have in Annapolis. So I just need 2 things. I need people to volunteer to help me on this committee, and also nominations from every commissioner, because heretofore most of the awards have been given out by a private individual, Lou Fields and his, So I want to expand it. Since it has been given to the commission as a project, then I need to expand it across the whole state of Maryland. So I need nominations from everybody. 1 nomination per commissioner, and then we will work with that. Thank you so much. I know it's more than 1 sentence, but I said it really fast.
So noted. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Morrison, for your work with the Reginald Lewis Museum. And as we spoke earlier, I'm looking forward to collaborations between the 2 museums, possibly some traveling exhibits that we share and the like. But to your point, we are in the same business and doing the same work. We are not competitors. So next, I'm going to turn the floor over back to our host, Commissioner Moaney. I'm getting ready to change the name, make it French too, like Commissioner Greene did. Who will introduce our 2 presenters, Commissioner Moaney.
And if I may, just a special report that I did not submit in advance, but as you all may know, this year was the first year that the Commission had launched a statewide book drive. This was to combat erasure in libraries, classrooms, and communities across the country. And that ad hoc committee has been chaired by Commissioner Wilson. She has done a phenomenal job, and we've got several hundred worth of books that have been donated to this first year's effort. So be on the lookout in your own communities. If your library didn't participate this year, please ask, and please celebrate those spaces as you see them pop up around. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing our first guest speaker, Miss Ashleigh Hairston. If there are any fans of cartoons in the room, you will know how rare it is to see one that's based in Maryland and centers Black folks in an accurate, authentic, and resilient way. And she has led an Emmy Award nominated team doing that very remarkable work on Cartoon Network. She was actually the voice of Wren in Craig of the Creek, which really reminded me of myself. So Ashleigh, I pass it over to you, and thank you so much for joining us very early from LA.
We're going to do a bit of Hi, Ashley, can you hear me? Can I hear you? Hello, hello. All right. All right, one more time.
Hello. Testing. Hello, hello, hello.
All right.
Hello. Yay. Okay. Testing, testing.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Set my little timer. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. just want to say first thank you to Jaelon and thanks to the Maryland Commission on African American History. I'm so excited to be here today, all the way from rainy Los Angeles, California. So I'm Ashleigh Hairston. I am a writer, actor, voice actor, and producer here in LA. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, but I did attend Howard University in Washington, D.C., where I studied theater and majored in acting. I don't know if there's any bison in the building, but if so, ate you. So I moved to Los Angeles in 2012 to do acting, and I fell into doing voiceovers, and voiceovers led to writing and animation. I started writing and animation in 2020, just before the pandemic started. And I started writing on a little show called Craig of the Creek. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today, my experience writing on that. So I speak a lot to kids about animation, just to sort of share, what it's all about and how it happens, because a lot of people just don't know about it, especially kids. So I made this little presentation to share. I don't know if everyone can see. Can everyone see that?
That looks great, Ashleigh.
Awesome, great. So this is the show that I work on. It is called, or was working on. It is called Craig of the Creek. It's a 3-time Emmy, GLAAD, and NAACP Image nominee. And it is about a little boy who goes and plays down by the creek with his 2 best friends. So Craig of the Creek is set in Maryland, which is exciting because, we're talking to Maryland folks today. It's created by Matt Burnett and Ben Levin. Ben Levin is a native of Olney, Maryland. So he was inspired to create a show based on his experiences as a kid growing up in Maryland with a little creek in his backyard. So these are our main characters. Craig of the Creek. This is Craig Williams in the center here. He is, and these are his 2 best friends, Kelsey Polkley and J.P. Mercer. Craig is an adventurous little kid. He loves, getting into adventures, and he loves, creating maps. That's sort of the main hook of the show, is that, as he's traveling through the creek, he sort of maps out different locations as he goes along, and it's about all of the different kids he meets also in the creek while he's playing and mapping out his adventures. This is Craig's family. This is, starting from the left, Nicole Williams, that's his mother. This is Dwayne Williams, that's his dad. This is Jessica Williams, that's his little sister, who also, by the way, got her own spin-off show called Jessica's Big Little World, and that is a preschool animated series that I got a chance to work on as well, and I was the head writer for that TV show. You can catch it on Cartoon Network or HBO Max. And then this is Bernard Williams. This is his brother, his older brother. It's voiced by Phil Lamar, which many people may know or remember from the sketch show Mad TV. He's also a voice actor on like 1 million different things. He's a legendary voice actor. He was in Family Guy, Young Justice. He's Static Shock, and he's Static and Static Shock across the DC universe. So we're very excited to work with Phil Lamar. This is Grandpa Earl and Grandma JoJo, and that's Craig's family. This is a character design sheet. This is basically, when I started writing for animation, I was exposed to all of the different aspects of creating an animated series. I had no idea about any of it. I didn't know that there were different jobs, such as character designers, there's background designers, there's prop designers, there are people who just color, and that's their whole thing, is color and paint and all of that. And obviously we have, your writers as well, you have your editors, you have your, sound mixers, but there's so many different, pieces, moving parts to creating a TV show in general, but also an animated series. And it was very fun for me to learn about all of that. So for every character in animation, this is across the board, you'll have character designers, and this is a character design sheet. So all the characters will get sort of what we call a turnaround. So you'll see the character front facing, as well as back facing, and that just helps to sort of understand the dimensions of a character. And, if we have to see the character from behind or from, the front, what they might look like. There's also a color palette here. Like I was saying, there's colorists in animation, so their specific job is to decide the colors for different things. And then we have this sort of breakdown on the left-hand side here. You'll have the character ID number, so that is helpful for when we have to go back into, the vault and sort of look at different characters that we may have or we may want to use. They're all sort of identified by this character ID number. And yeah, imagine creating this for every outfit that a character might have. So that is the reason why, in most animated series, characters don't change clothes. Something like a show like The Simpsons, same outfit for over 25 years. Okay, so these are the kids of the creek. These are all a few of just the, many kids that Craig got to meet on his adventures in the creek. So we have King Xavier, he's the king of the other side. We have Sparkle Cadet, Wildernessa. This is Kit, she runs the trading tree at the creek. These are the horse girls. These are the 10 speeds here on the left. Oh my gosh, time flew by fast. Okay. Is that 7 minutes already? Oh my Lord. Okay, I'll zoom really fast through. The horse girls, so for this show, we really wanted to explore all of the different sort of aspects of being a kid. What are the fun things that kids used to do and play in their childhood. And so that's kind of why people love the show, is because it's reminiscent of, all the different things. Kids who used to act like horses and gallop around, kids who love riding bikes, those are the 10 speeds. This is my character Ren here in the bottom right corner that I voice. She is a member of the Science Alliance, so she loves playing with, or I should say making hypotheses and messing up her tests and inventions down by the creek. These are some of the locations in Craig of the Creek. We also have, different designers for backgrounds and environments. So this is the Williams home. This is actually based on Ben's actual house in Olney, Maryland. It looks just like this on the interior and exterior of the house. We have the trading tree, the stump. This is where the kids hang out, inside of a tree stump. And this is the exterior of the stump. These are some more of the different locations. We have the Herkelton Library. That's where Stax hangs out. She loves books, and so she hangs out there a lot. This is the other side. If you're a fan of the show, you know that they traveled to the other side of the creek, and that opened up an entirely new world of, kids to play with. I think the Derby kids were over there, and lots of other different kids were playing on the other side of the creek. They also play in the sewers, and that's the creek daycare as well. So this is just a quick example of what an outline is. I was a writer, a staff writer on Craig of the Creek, and so I was responsible for writing the premises and outlines for the show. So this is just an example of what a typical outline might look like for an episode. We would start with breaking a story in the room all together, and then the writers would go off and take a story, create a premise, which is like a maybe 1 to 2 page premise, or sort of what might happen in an episode. We'd write that out, and then we turn it into an outline, which follows more of an act structure, 3-act structure. We have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. I'm not going to read it all, but it's a riveting episode, I'll tell ya. Basically just write what happens. You can add your jokes there, your specific specifics about different characters and what, people might say throughout the episode. And the 3-act structure is, a very simple setup for a beginning, middle, and end of the episode. And then we hand the outline off to our board artists, and then our storyboard artists then take this right here, and they draw it out completely, and they turn it into an episode. And then I have here this episode, The Craig of the Creek. This is a clip from this specific outline called Body Swap, which my character Ren was also featured in. If we had time, I would play this for you, and you can see how the outline reflects within the episode. But we don't have time for that, so I encourage you to just check out the episode. This particular clip is on YouTube, but watch the whole show. It's a great, fun, sweet little show. It's no longer on. It was canceled because of a lot of, drama within the animation industry currently, with studios and lots of different networks being sold, and conglomeration that's happening between different studios. So unfortunately it is no longer, but we do have season 5 coming this June. The rest of season 5, all new episodes coming this June. So I encourage everyone to check it out on Craig of the Creek, or I keep saying that, on Cartoon Network, and it's also on HBO Max. And that's it. Thank you. I will be in Washington, D.C. in July 12th through the 14th for BlurredCon, which is a Black Nerd convention. That's in its, I think, 7th or 8th year now, and it's getting big and growing. I have a show called Fairly Odd Parents that I co-executive produced, co-story edited on, and I'm also the voice of the new God Kid. Her name is Hazel Wells. So I will be at BlurredCon this year promoting that and screening episodes. So thanks so much again for having me.
Thank you.
That was phenomenal, wasn't it? We want you to get a feel for how each of these Black women are leading in the natural world through a variety of mediums. And as a kid glued to the TV with the creek in my backyard, this really meant a lot for me to see, and I hope that her team and others like her even inspired you to join in that work too. Last but not least, we have Mariah Davis, who just began earlier this year at Maryland Department of Natural Resources, leading in the work of environmental justice. This is a way for us to lead in reckoning some of the ways that we're nearest to problems and often left out of building some of those solutions. And the governor has been unapologetic about that, and we are so fortunate to have Mariah here with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mariah up.
I'm a shorty, so I often have to do this. But good afternoon, everyone. I really enjoyed Ashleigh's presentation. Seeing those pictures and seeing that representation in nature was very much so reminiscent of my childhood. All right, so I'm Mariah Davis. I'm originally from Virginia, Southern Virginia, but I have been living in Maryland for 7 years. I live in Annapolis, so not too far away. So thank you so much to Jaelon. Thank you so much to the Commission. Thank you to Bethel AME for having me here today. I'm excited. This is my first time attending one of these Commission meetings, and it certainly won't be my last. I'm hoping to use this opportunity to share a little bit about myself, our work, but also hoping to find some more, opportunities to partner with you all. So this is just a little bit about me in photos. I love to fish. I love being outside. I love to go hiking. My parents and I did that a lot As kids, my mom was not and still isn't very outdoorsy, but I did that a lot with my brothers, and so that was something that really inspired me to pursue a career in environmental policy. So I spent some time in Richmond, Virginia. I have my bachelor's degree in environmental studies, and I have my master's degree from the University of Maryland in public management. And so when I was getting my bachelor's degree in environmental studies, I was taking, your typical kind of science, biology type of classes, a lot of environmental geology classes, and we didn't want to talk about what environmental justice was. And that is something, that's very near and dear to my heart. Once I started to realize how much racism showed up in environmental decision making, that's when I really got inspired. The work became very, personal for me. So there's a photo here at the bottom. The taller gentleman, his name is Congressman McEachin. He introduced a bill called the Environmental Justice for All Act. This is the most comprehensive environmental justice bill that we have in Congress. He's been a mentor for me and somebody who I've gotten to work with for a long time over the years on EJ issues that have impacted his district in Virginia. Sadly, he passed away from cancer in November of 2022, but he's somebody that I've gotten to do a lot of work with and has continued to inspire me today. There's a top photo there. I'm the shorty in the green suit, but the guy in the middle, that's Congressman Sarbanes. He's my congressman. I've gotten to work with him a lot over the years as well on bay restoration issues. So this is just a little about me in photos. The bottom left photo, I'm very involved in my community. I'm LGBTQ. I helped start an organization called Annapolis Pride. Have gotten to work with friends like Chris Haley. I think a lot of you know him, but yeah, I do a lot of work as well in my community. So environmental justice, essentially that means everybody, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from, no matter how much money that you have, everybody deserves an equal right and a fair treatment, to their environment. It's sad to see, but I'm happy to be doing this work every day. Just how much, again, racism shows up in this work, and that's very much so on purpose. I talked a bit about the degree I got, and environmental justice was not a topic. That is a reminder for me that we still live within a system, and these decisions are being made on purpose. So I have, just some facts up here just to talk to you about what environmental justice is, if it's something that you're not familiar with, but how we see it show up in decision making and policy today is through heirs property law. The fact that blacks were some of the largest landowners in the South specifically after Emancipation Proclamation. Today blacks only really own maybe 1% of the land. The majority of our coastlines throughout Maryland and throughout the Chesapeake Bay region are privately owned, 93% of them. And so, your largest landowner, the average age of a landowner is somebody who is a white man about the age 67, and that age continues to go up each and every year. So getting our land back is also something I'm passionate about and something I hope to do through this job. And then you have redlining, of course, and a lot of rural redlining, that has occurred here on the Eastern Shore. If you haven't gotten to see the film Eroding History, I encourage you to watch that. And so, a lot of that work is work that, I'm hoping to continue to do through my role. But yeah, even our parks, our national parks, a lot of our state parks were founded on racism as a way to exclude people, to keep people out. A lot of the founders of environmentalism believed in eugenics, and I don't think that, the industry that I work in is majority white, and I still don't think that that's a narrative that a lot of people know about. But I'm here, to be sharing these stories and to really do something about it. So these are just some facts for you. I pulled this, I think, a climate website, but people of color in the U.S. are exposed to up to 63% more pollution than white counterparts. White people are exposed to 17% less pollution every single day. 68% of black people live within 30 miles of a coal-fired power plant. Black people are 75% more likely to live near hazardous waste facilities. In 46 states, people of color live within more air pollution than white people. So you can see that in the statistics as well. This is from climaterealityproject.org. So that's a little bit about what environmental justice is. So my role, I started with Maryland Department of Natural Resources just a couple months ago. I've had a career in policy and advocacy and have switched over to government. This is a politically appointed position, so I'm very happy and proud to be representing the governor's administration and to be, working on environmental justice issues on his behalf. The guy on the left is my boss. That's Secretary Josh Kurtz. He's the Secretary of Natural Resources. I work on his executive team. I advise him and DNR. We have a staff of over 2,000 people on EJ issues. So I work with him directly on policy, and it's been a really great opportunity so far. So who is DNR? I put some pictures up here. This is a recent experience I got to do. This might sound really scary and weird, but DNR manages a lot. We manage the state forest, we manage wildlife. We got to do a really cool experience recently with bear cubs. I got to hold a baby bear. They are very friendly. They smell like little puppies. They want to cuddle you and snuggle you. That was a really cool experience. But DNR is the largest landowner in Maryland. So on the left is a list of some of the units that we have within DNR. This is not all of them, but just to give you an idea of our work, how many of you like seafood? Any oyster, crab lovers? Okay. We do a lot of research and a lot of protective work to protect oysters and blue crabs and things like that. In 2022, we planted over 200 million spat, so this is baby oyster larvae to help them grow and reproduce in the bay. But we do a lot of work to protect our oysters and our crabs and our fish and habitat populations. We also do a lot of work in our parks and our state forests. In 2022, we helped respond to over 200 forest fires. So we have all kinds of staff that are doing research, that are doing first response. To give you a more recent example, DNR staff is actively working on the Key Bridge tragedy that happened. My boss got a call at 3 a.m. and reported to Baltimore. Anytime there is an emergency on the water, we have Natural Resources Police with boats. We respond to emergencies. We have divers, we have sonar. So we're going to be out there working on the Key Bridge incident from, the rescue mission, responding to the families and trying to, get people back to their loved ones if we can, but also through the end when it comes to monitoring what are the impacts taking place on the water. So there's a lot that we do in this work, and I'll be advising the entire department, making sure that environmental justice is embedded through each of these units. So measuring impact, we can do this. We can make impact as a department through legislation. I'm very excited at the opportunity to be working throughout this General Assembly session, but also next year to introduce some environmental justice legislation. So we also work on policy, statutes, grant making. We're a huge grant maker. We work with the legislator to pass big programs, to acquire land, to manage the land, to manage the parks. So I see a lot of really great, opportunity for us to work together through grant making. One of the things I really want to work on is to figure out where are our resources going and how can we get them, back to African American communities for environmental protection. So I'm looking to do some analysis on that. We have a lot of different, programs, a lot of different interpretive programming that we do in our parks. We provide a lot of technical assistance, and we have a lot of political influence as well. But some of the things that I'll be working on specifically, attending community meetings, continuing, to listen and to hear from our community about issues that are most important to you so that we can make some changes and be better as a department, but also preserving history and culture, which I'm going to talk about, adapting to climate change, increasing equitable access. That's really important. I talked quite a bit before about how much land we don't own, but we're looking to create safe and equitable parks and equitable ways in which people can recreate on the land and in the water. So increasing access and diverse partners. This is just a small taste of, what we're working on in this space. But Interpreting Difficult Histories team, Angela Crenshaw is a colleague of mine. She's the first Black woman to head the Maryland Park Service. I have a little slide on her if you haven't gotten to meet her, but she's doing a lot of work to make sure that the contributions that African Americans and Blacks have made throughout our country are preserved, especially as we're continuing to acquire land and open that up, to the public. We want to make sure that we're telling those stories in an equitable way. Angela is phenomenal. She's a one-woman show, but I'm basically here to help uplift her work and make sure that it's embedded throughout all of our programming. Esme Parque, we have some Spanish-speaking staff that are helping the Latinx community with interpretive services, making sure that they're able to get green jobs and green pathways, and they're in our park systems doing a lot of interpretive work as well. We have all kinds of different programs that we work on. Green Space Equity Program. I won't get into all of these because I know we're getting short on time, but there's a lot of work that we're doing to really engage the public in an authentic way. So behind me, this is Ranger Angela Crenshaw. She helped stand up the Harriet Tubman Park, which is a state park. It's also, a national park. So DNR is a big partner in that work. So I really just wanted to highlight her and a lot of the work that she's been doing. A bill called the Great Maryland Outdoors Act passed in 2022. This was a bill that was in response to the pandemic. So we, park users, everybody was out in parks, during the pandemic. And so we passed this bill, and through that work, we're able to hire 100 new park staff, but we're also able to acquire these, properties. So we have, the Freedman State Park. So I hope I pronounced his name correctly. Enoch George Howard. He was enslaved on the left. That was the house that he was in. He was enslaved. He bought his freedom and eventually opened up one of the first freedmen schools in Montgomery County. So that was land that he was enslaved on. So I know that Angela has been able to work with the archives and Miss Mariah Davis to do a lot of that work. So again, that's all kinds of work that I'm trying to do throughout every single park that we open, and definitely looking for ways to partner on that. Port of Deposit, this is a new site that we have been able to acquire. A lot of atrocities have happened to Black communities in these schools, and a lot of abuse has taken place there. And so I want to make sure that when we are acquiring these sites as a large agency, that we're doing our due diligence to commemorate what has taken place in these places, but also to honor those we have lost and those who are, we continue to celebrate. In 2022, we were able to work with Blacks of the Chesapeake and a lot of different state, local elected officials and partners to put money towards Cards Beach. So this was on the Chitlins Circuit. My good friend Vince Leggett is at Blacks of the Chesapeake. If you haven't gotten to know Vince, he's wonderful. But we've been able to partner with Vince, and there's a lot of Black beaches and a lot of Black historical sites again across Maryland that we're looking to do more work there with. And so if you haven't gotten to see the latest updates of this project, to see what it's going to be, it's really cool. They're going to have a concert area. It's going to be a area that's open to the public and things like that. So I'm excited to continue this work, not just with Vince and Blacks of the Chesapeake and Cards Beach, but throughout Maryland. There's a link at the top if you ever want to see a map of all the historical Black beaches in the area. There are many others out there in Maryland. So let's work together. I just left my email up here. I'll be sure to kind of hang out for as much as I can throughout the day. But thank you again to the commission, to the church, and to Jaelon for having me here today. I'm very excited to continue working with you.
Commissioner Moaney, we cannot thank you enough for this wonderful meeting, dynamic
speakers, you have raised the bar yet again. So I will entertain a motion for adjournment from the public meeting, but remember, we are going immediately into closed session.
So moved. So moved.
Second, it's been properly moved and seconded that this meeting, this public meeting for Monday, April 1st, 2024, the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture is adjourned. Thank you all. I'm sorry. You have to make, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, bear with me. One moment.
Before we go in, oh yes, please. Before we go into a closed session, a statement has to be made. Since we are mandated to have open meetings, we are allowed to have a closed session under the provision 3-305, okay? And this is to conduct collective bargaining negotiations or consider matters that are related to negotiations. So I have to take that, what time is it? The time to close, the open meeting ended, 1:05. And Commissioner Moaney has, so that people can kind of mix and mingle and talk, Commissioner Moaney has, and his pastor have graciously set up a room for us on the second floor so that we don't have to rush this wonderful crowd out of here. There may be people to whom they'd like to speak. There are flyers for the Loudon Park and other things up here that people can take. And if the commissioners would follow Commissioner Moaney's direction, then we will adjourn upstairs to the second floor. But yes, I have to make a motion before closing the open session. I thought I just did. Okay, I thought I just did. To meet a closed session under the Act. Okay. Recorded vote to close the session, the open session, which we just did. Didn't we make the motion that the meeting be adjourned? Chair Johnson just did that.
You have to take a motion to have a closed session. There has to be a motion.
Oh, okay.
And you have to say the topic.
I just did, but I have to have a motion that we enter into a closed session. Thank you.
As you're grabbing your jackets, please enter to the right. For those who are interested in joining my colleagues on a walking tour, we'll be convening at the door to the right at the end of the hallway. Thank you all.